Thank you, sir. So you have already explained the principles on which the Honeybee network works. But how did you ensure that the network you started will be like better on the execution side and in line with your grassroots to go global? Because we have seen that the many such initiatives come, but they die in the very real early stage. So on the execution part, how did you ensure that it will prosper?
I think the fact that we were under public watch, as any other social change agent would be, and we were the pedagogy that we were following of recognizing the creative people at their doorstep, of sharing with the world at large and including our own policymakers that look, there are so many innovations at grassroots. Something that had never been factored in the innovation literature, innovation policy, innovation paradigm. There was not, please understand, whatever we did, we had no template to begin with. There was no reference point. There was no template by which we could have adapted and done in India, We were developing for the first time a framework of leveraging grassroots innovation. So I think the fact that we were trying to do first time and with data, empirical data, was helping us. We were also trying to look at four verticals: technology, institutions, education, and culture. In all the four verticals, we were looking for such people who have solved problem without outside help. Now, this self-triggered, self-inspired, self-designed solutions, this was something which was intriguing to people, which was something difficult to understand. But since these were real artifacts, these were real institutions, these were real pedagogies of the grassroots people, it was difficult to dismiss it. But I must tell you that initially my own colleagues at the institute were not very convinced. So much so that in 92, there was a public policy committee, policy and perspectives committee of the institute. And they said there was a meeting and I was invited to that meeting because till that time I used to bring out newsletter from IMA address. So they said, look, there are many practices in the newsletter which are not authenticated, which have not been tested. Should IMA put its name on something of that kind? So why don't we ask Professor Gupta to set up a voluntary organization to publish it? Can you imagine? Institute asked me. I didn't want to set up a voluntary organization. For me, it was all right as a professor. So I said, all right. So 93, when we set up Srishti, Society for Research and Initiative for Sustainable Technologies and Institutions, we also created Srishti Innovation, a section 25 at that time and now section 8 company. Because if you have FCRA for an organization, then you cannot receive, you cannot publish journal or magazines. There was a restriction. So we had to set up a separate company for publication. And all this was done. First few years, it was funded by my consultancy income. There was no funding, there was no grant, there was no project. And these things don't remain hidden. People figure it out. Our country is reasonably transparent and reasonably porous. Sooner or later, and our institute is even more porous. Everything gets talked about in the corridor. No, nothing remains. And that's a good thing. That's what makes our institute so strong. So people knew that if I had so many staff, if I have so many people working with me, I had so many offices, IMA gave me so much support that no institute I would have ever given to any faculty member anywhere in the world. I had so many rooms in the institute. I had, within the Wing 13, I had almost 3/4 of the Wing 13 with me. My staff would sit on the first room on the left, first room on the right, room my opposite, last two rooms, all these rooms are with me. Plus Wing 8 room, Wing Dom 13 room, and all kinds of places I had in the institute, huge. And they were, mind you, there were so many directors I had to deal with. Every director would ask, have some doubts, But when they looked at, they found that, look, this man is not paying himself and paying his staff, paying other people. Why do we come in the way? So I must say that execution process was as important for its success as the philosophy. Because if process was something that I was enriching myself, then I wouldn't have got that so much of support, I think. That's my assumption. Why would an institution then contribute so much? Because then there's no public interest being served. There's no public cause being served. So there was no guarantee at that time that public policy will get influenced by what I'm doing. But it was clear that I was working towards changing the public policy. as working toward changing the public institutional framework. And I will discuss with you later when you ask other questions that it is possible to do that. And any one of us can be a troubleshooter and a change agent of bringing about lasting change, durable changes in our public policy.